everybody, and welcome to the second ever video podcast being recording of Coffin Talk. I am your host, Mike Oppenheim, and this, of course, is a weekly interview with the living, where we explore how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week, I have an actual friend, a person I know, which is always a little easier for me because I kind of just don't have to get to know them as I'm talking to you. So today, my guest is here's a new fact. I didn't know her middle name is Olive, but Tina Olive Jenkins, but now actually Thilmony. It's not pronounced Thilmony, which is how it's going to look when I bill her on the podcast. It's Thilmony, like you want that money in the till. Or as she said, like Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter, which she's happened.
It happens all the time.
She is 30 years old because she likes to answer questions before I ask them. And this is the part I can't wait to ask you about. She quit her jobs 3 years ago, and now she was working in call centers, which I'm obsessed with. I even wrote a whole book about someone in a call center. And now she is a full-time successful novelist, an author, whatever word you want to use. She writes novels. I've read one of them. I'm in the middle of reading a second one. They are not published yet, so I'm warning you. We're going to talk a little bit about her writing, but this is a work in progress. It will be coming out. But she's awesome, and I've been talking way too much about her while she sits there and like watches me talk about her. So Tina, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
It's cool. And so we already know that you're 31, but we also ask people, where did you grow up and what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
Yeah, so actually 32, but you're okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, you're fine. And I'm a millennial, I think, in every aspect of the word, except I'm technologically not gifted at all. But yeah, millennial, all the stuff, High School Musical, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, all that.
That's awesome. That's all like right before. I'm like elder millennial, but it's a weird term and I'm still getting used to it. But I definitely know of what you just talked about, but did not
Yep.
participate in it. So yeah.
There you go.
But the fact that like anyone 2 years older than me wouldn't even know what you're talking about is, I guess, why
I
I'm
know,
still
it's
a millennial.
wild.
Yeah. And is it true that you and my mother share a birthday? Is your birthday
Yeah,
August 4th? Yeah.
August 4th, yeah, 1992.
So Tina met my mother, and it was funny because my mom told me last night at dinner, she's like, your friend Tina is so nice, and did you know we share a birthday? Like, it was like hilarious. So
That's
that was cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
Everyone I've
so
ever known that's like one of the best people ever is also born on August 4th. It's a great day to be born and alive. It's just a
and
good
I'm sure
time.
you know this, you talked to her, but it was my grandfather's birthday too, and or maybe you don't, and also
Yeah.
President Obama. Have you?
And and the Sprouse twins and like two dudes that I went to high school with, and one of them was my neighbor for like 10 years, same birthday.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And there's a guy who's been on the podcast 3 times, Pepe, one of my favorite roommate ever. Like literally, I've had 30 something roommates, and he's my favorite, and his name
Oh,
is
I
Pepe.
love
So
that.
yeah, his birthday is
Oh,
August.
that's
So
awesome.
August 4th, woo, and my brother's
Yeah.
August 8th, and my grandpa and mom were very mad because they wanted him to be. My grandpa really wanted his daughter, my mom, and then my brother to be all born on the same day.
That would have been great. They just needed better timing. She just needed to keep it plugged in until, you know.
Apparently, he was yelling at her on the phone from Florida to New York, saying, "Run around the block, do something, like get that baby out." So
I love that.
awesome. Well, welcome to Coffin Talk, where we talk about me
Hey.
for 4 minutes instead of you. I promise we'll
No, you're
actually get.
fine.
So did you grow up here in the Arizona area, like Phoenix,
I
where we are?
Yeah, so I moved here when I was 3 because I was actually born in Loma Linda, California, because I was a
Oh
really
wow!
premature baby. I was like 2 pounds and 7 ounces.
Whoa!
Yeah, I was really small, and then and I'm still small, so probably attributes to that. But yeah, I moved here when I was 3 because my parents got divorced, and I've lived here ever since. So basically, yes.
So you were conceived and birthed in California, and then you came here. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
just making
I
sure
came
for
here when
that
I
I'm
was
following.
3.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
And so which parent moved here?
My mom.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
my
do you have
mom. There's a
siblings?
bunch of family out here. Yeah, I've got a bunch of siblings because my mom and dad all married 3 times, and so there's like I think altogether with everyone like 8 of us, but like with my immediate like family, which is my mom and my late stepfather, it was just me as the oldest and my younger brother Josh.
Okay. So as a father of 3 kids, and I have a divorce, so one is with one marriage and 2 are with the other.
Yeah.
Do you call everyone like brother and sister, or do you bother to say half and
Yeah.
step and stuff like that?
No, I definitely call them all, like, and I'll actually be like, "Oh, it's Sister Shelly," when I'm talking to her, or like Brother Mike, who's passed away now, but Brother
Oh,
Mike, or, Brother David, or the only one I don't do that to is Josh, the youngest, because I guess because we were in the same household, so that would be weird. But,
yeah.
um but yeah, definitely, like, all of them are siblings, and I love them all.
And so if you're 32 right now, what's the age of the eighth youngest and I'm sorry if it's the one who's deceased, what was the age of the oldest one? Like
I
roughly. I
actually
mean, you don't have to, yeah.
No, I hear you. I'm actually trying to think. I think he might have been in his 60s?
Oh, okay. So
60s?
there's a
Yeah.
big range of
There
years.
is a big
Like,
range, yeah. My mom and dad were, like, 20 years apart in age.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
And so you've already mentioned death twice, so I can tell that this is not going to be a hard segue when we get into life and death. But
Yeah.
were you like as a kid like traveling between the two families and stuff a lot? Like, were you like,
No, because like, all on my dad's side, they all live in Texas, and so
oh
I've
wow,
never been to Texas, and so, yeah, no, I've always been here. They've come to visit me, though.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like a weird segue because for my audience, it's gonna sound like I'm just trying to like blow smoke up your butt, but you're like one of the nicest people I've ever met, but you're also not like
Thank you.
naive and like stupid and like all these other associations that people actually have with people who are as nice as you. And I'm just
Oh,
being blunt. And you
thank
worked in a
you.
call center, which to me, like if you work in a call center, you must have heard some like
Oh my
wow, like
gosh.
profane and like
Crazy
yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So my first question is, were you always this nice? And I don't care how you perceive yourself. That's not even at all on the board. I just like you know it and I know it that people perceive you as very nice.
Yeah.
So like run
I
with that
think
if you don't
so.
mind.
I definitely
Yeah.
tried to be. Like, I've always, like, done Christmas cards for, like, a billion people every year, and, yeah, I think so. I've always been really sweet, I think.
And do you think it comes from like an innate part of you or does it come from upbringing or is it a combination?
Probably a combination, but I definitely think it's just who I am as a person. I like to be nice. I don't like to be around negative people, and I just like to bring the positivity. I tend to like to be
That,
the mom friend too. Like, if my friends are struggling, I'm like the one that's like, "You stay with me. I'll feed you. I'll water you. I'll watch you grow." Like, definitely like total mom friend. So yeah.
that's awesome. You give off that impression in the best way ever. So
Yay.
what like um when you
I'm very
have those
proud of
dark
that.
good, good. I'm that you should be, seriously. I was like excited to have you on the podcast and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting to ask you because we got to know each other better and better through our writing group.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I should mention that she is a part of this Red Sands writing community that I did not start, but I am a part of now in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is like to me the greatest gift of my life
It's
is
amazing.
yeah.
Mine
So
too, honestly.
and so with that said, like with the niceness and all these questions about being nice, I assume you have bad days. I'm assuming that
Oh
you've
yeah.
lost a stepfather, you've lost a brother. Like, I mean, you've like I know you're a huge horror fan, and we're gonna get into that later. So,
Yes.
when the darkness comes, when like the bad thoughts, the mean thoughts, the nasty comes, like what do you do to deflect it, or how are you? Because you don't look like you're suppressing it.
Yeah. No, I just if I need to cry, I'll cry. But typically speaking, I don't know, I try to just force myself to be positive if I'm like really upset. But yeah, I definitely have my moments. I'm a complete demon before coffee, like daily. So like total gremlin status. But yeah, no, I just try and turn it around, I guess.
That's cool. That's really cool. Do you
Yeah.
um do you remember like an inflection point in your life, like a point where things took off and you felt more confident about this, or have you always had like the level of confidence you seem to have now about it?
I think I've always been pretty confident. I hope I'm not
Yeah,
like an egomaniac, but like I've always been like a pretty confident like person in general. I've always been very happy with myself.
that's cool. And so, kind of
Yeah.
shifting into the death, dying, metaphysical part of all this, does some of that confidence? Do you have like a foundation of religion or of philosophy that is guiding you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, and so I definitely associate as like Christian, and then yeah, absolutely. I would say like a lot of my like moral code comes from yeah, my belief in Jesus and trying to be a light in the world and be a good person and yeah, be a good friend.
And so, you're a huge fan of horror and gore.
I am, I
You
know,
know,
yes.
yeah. She writes YA and she writes like awesome horror. Like it's really cool because your short
Thank you.
stories, yeah, like she has one if you go to her Substack, and again there's always to find Tina and everything, but she does have a Substack and she has two really good short stories on it. The second one, the
Yeah,
most recent one, is definitely my favorite. And it's about
yay.
pickles and
Yes.
and it's
Yeah,
dark, and that's why I like the darkness and I like it all. So I'm curious. Um, when I was young, I was not raised Christian at all. So I
yeah.
stereotype people who say I like Jesus with like I don't like gore, horror, swearing, bad things. Like, and so I'm curious,
I
like
mean, to
how,
be fair.
yeah. So how did you
No,
blend
yeah.
that growing up?
Well, so it's interesting because I mean there were certain horror movies like that my mom wouldn't allow me to watch, like anything with like possessions and stuff like that. Like I watch them now, but like when I was growing up, like that was like a no, like no Exorcist, no Beyond the Door, none of that. But it's strange because I guess it started from a place of comfort because when my parents divorced, my dad was in Texas and my mom moved out here. It was just me and her for a couple of years, and it just became like this thing where like she wouldn't show me like terrifying things, but like we would watch like Tales from the Crypt or like Goosebumps, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, things like that. And sometimes like even like the old like 1950s, like Them with the giant spiders, and it's super hokey. And I guess it just became a comfort thing because my mom was like a full-time nanny for a while, and so sometimes she would come home really late. But on Fridays, it would, she'd come home and I'd always get M&Ms, and I'd always get like we'd always have pizza, and we'd curl up in the bed, and it would just be me and my mom, and we would watch like what she would consider like, oh, we're gonna watch a scary movie, and so it just became like a comfort thing. And so I loved, a lot of times it would like rain and stuff outside, like be stormy, and we'd be watching like scary movies. And yeah, no, it's weird, it just became like a comfort thing. And then I've always been interested in like which is, I guess, a little strange because I consider myself a bright happy person, and I do love musicals too, like as like a
Yeah.
like defining like right on the toe of like horror and musicals. Those are my favorite things. So I love that stuff too, but I've always been kind of drawn to like, I guess, the darker stuff. Like I've always liked Poe. I've always liked cemeteries, spiders, bats. I don't know. And so I find like a little sense of comfort in it, I guess.
That's a great answer, and it really goes into like as a dad with like young kids, like I love my memories that are the equivalent. Like the my mom had this
Yeah.
thing she did, or my dad, and like just like movie night wasn't about the movie; it was about like all four of us just sitting and like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot with the advent of screens and like everyone having their own movies because like
Yeah.
it's so different if you're in a room and all four people have their phones out and the TV's on. It's not like watching a movie together is actually not, in my opinion, like a selfish thing, but like
Yeah.
each of us on our screens having separate conversations is. So yeah, I mean it's cool to
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
um
I definitely like there's times where like I hate it when people pull their phones out during movies. I'll be like, put it away.
yeah.
Like we're supposed to be experiencing this together. But, I don't like make a big fuss about it or anything. I just like will side eye you.
No, it's hard. It's first of all, it's hard as someone who I was a film major, and even I sometimes like a movie's slightly boring now and I feel myself like pulling my phone out just to see if there's a red notification, and it's pathetic. And
Yeah.
like yeah, I'm
I'll be so for real. Like I didn't get my first cell phone until I was like in my 20s, and like everyone in high school had them. And then like I remember being in high school and being like, if I ever get a cell phone, I'm never going to be glued to it. And lo and behold, I'm absolutely glued to this damn thing. Like it's like it's sitting like right next to me right now. Like I find myself doing it all the time too. So, I'm
yeah,
a hypocrite.
I hate it in our writing group. I run the writing group on Saturdays. So the writing group has
Yeah.
many things and stuff. So I'm just for my audience, it's not like I run all of them, but I happen to run like the smaller group that we have on Saturdays. And I have to have my phone with a timer on it because I'm running like a timer for everyone's turn. And it's so annoying because it means my phone's out, which means I have to like press the button to start and stop the timer, which means I keep seeing if I have notifications. And then since I have a wife with little kids, I'm like, well, I should see if she texted me because like blah blah blah. But I feel like bad every time I do it, and it's just like a weird
Yeah.
issue.
I can
Um,
tell you that you're like very amazing. And like I don't think I mean speaking maybe for everyone, but like definitely in like my experience, like it never feels like you're like too distracted.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I did, by the
I
way,
think
pay her and
everyone
have
would
her come
agree.
on. Yeah, no, I that's why I had on just to say I'm amazing. So we can stop now, and then we'll edit around this, but we'll just make sure
Okay.
that that was the no. What with like your personality and like the late start with cell phones and all that, and like you still are a millennial and all that, where do you like, where's your feeling of like guilt versus like I know it's more Catholic that's associated with guilt and not Christian, but like do you like with the religion that you experienced growing up and with how it is now, like does it affect you at all? Like do you ever have like moments where you're like worried that like again like I confuse Catholic Catholicism with
Catholicism.
Christianity sometimes, but
That's
like
okay.
I believe there's still sin in Christianity, right? It's not just
Oh, yeah.
Catholicism. Yeah,
Yes.
so like
Yeah.
does that, because that's my biggest concern, like fear of my friends becoming like of a religion that does that, that has sin and tells you like there's a place called hell. Like I'm not a big fan of that fear idea. It's not, first of all, hell might be
Yeah.
very real. So I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what scares me about like picturing a young child being indoctrinated into that. So can you kind of tell me how that worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, ooh, it's kind of a tough question. I, I mean, I don't know. I guess growing up, it was just like the norm. I guess because that's like the first thing that you're kind of taught is like,
Mhm.
oh, if you're bad, you'll go to hell, or like you can backslide even if you're a Christian and end up in hell, or the rapture could happen and you'll be left behind. But I don't know. To me, it's more about the hope in Jesus as opposed to like and like having like a personal kind of relationship with him as opposed to like focusing on that because I don't like to focus on that either, and like the last thing I ever want to do is come off like I'm condemning someone. I definitely don't like that approach. I think I think there's like Christians, and then there's like the really like zealous kind of fanatical ones. And there's a
Mhm.
difference between being fanatical in the sense of being like fanatical for Jesus and his values versus being fanatical in the sense that like you're judgy and condemning people, because that's not shining, I think, the true light of Jesus. He was friends with sinners. He was friends with people that were like oddballish. He would go out and heal them and like help them. And so yeah, definitely don't like the condemnation aspect, and it's not something I think should be like super focused on. I mean, I think it's a
Mhm.
part of it, but definitely not in the sense that like pushing it. Does that make sense? I don't know if
No,
that
it
makes
makes total sense.
sense. Okay,
And
cool.
did yeah, and did any of that come into play with so you're happily married. I've met your husband now and I met him when he was your fiance and he's like everyone loves you. You need to know like
I
like
love
the
him
level of
too.
yeah, the you're in one of those dangerous relationships where like if like you're like, "Oh, we got in a fight," like people are going to be like, "Well, it's he's pretty awesome. Like what did you do?" Like I can see how like and I can see his friends having the same thing with you. Like you guys are just like this
Yeah.
power couple.
Oh,
But
thank you.
is he religious? Was he religious? Are you combinedly religious?
Yeah, so he speaking of Catholicism, that's actually how he grew up. But yeah, I mean, I think we definitely like yeah, we're definitely both religious, I would say.
Cool. And so, like, what was it like when you were dating and like meeting people before you found like the one? Was religion a part of that ever, or was it not important to you? Like, could you have married an atheist?
I mean, I don't think it would have been like a preference to marry someone that didn't share my beliefs because there is like a whole thing about like being unequally yoked. But I
Hmm.
have dated like my first boyfriend was very atheist, and it just wasn't something that I think I brought him to church like one time, and he's like, "Yeah, this is not my thing," and I was like, "Okay, fine," like, yeah, that's where it's like I don't condemn. I just try and be a light, and and we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, of course, but yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm closed off to it. I think, when you find someone you gel with them. But yeah, I mean, always the preference was having somebody that at least aligned with like God and Jesus, and you know what I mean, like I guess definitely like a Christian perspective.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And what
Yeah.
this is the point of the podcast where I like to ask like so what do you actually think is going to happen to you when you die? And you've listened to a few episodes, but I do like to
Yeah.
clarify not what happens to me, not what happens to like some other person. Like where do you see yourself going? Like if you stepped off a curb today and a bus hits you, like what's up?
Yeah, no, totally. So I believe that we'll go to heaven, or I will go to heaven, and or at least I believe in, like, God will judge you,
Hmm.
before he determines where you're going to go. But, yeah, I mean, I speak with full confidence that I believe I'm going to heaven. I'm definitely a born again Christian, and so yeah, I believe that he's going to definitely judge me for my sins, but I think ultimately my faith in him is very strong, and so I believe that yeah, he'll take me to heaven.
That's cool, and I like that
Yeah.
answer, and I respect it. And so I kind of want to advance the conversation into the realm of like, why do we even have free will? Like, why are we allowed to sin? Like, what's your philosophy on like why God would give us this life where we can do horrible, horrible things to ourselves and each other?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I believe that God's intention was for all of us to follow and serve Him and to end up there. And I believe He gives us free will because I just don't think He wants to be a jerk about it. I guess is kind of a way of looking at it. Like, I think He just wants to, He definitely just, He wants people to follow and believe after Him and do these godly things and be Christ like and stuff. Well, maybe I shouldn't say do godly things,
No,
but
no, I understand. Yeah.
yeah, but like be Christ-like and be a light in the world, and yeah, I think it's free will is definitely more about just making sure he's not coming off kind of dictatorish. Like you choose to have a relationship with me, and determine where you want to go.
Have you ever been tempted or tested to choose to change your relationship with God in your life?
Um, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think it's been such a firm foundation in me, and it is such a firm conviction inside of me, and having that relationship with him that I don't feel like I'd ever like fully walk away. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely like had those moments. I think it's very natural to question that, and I've definitely had those moments, especially when I see. Well, to be honest, especially when I see Christians that are not very Christian,
Yeah.
or are super like pushy or judgy or condemn me.
Hmm.
I guess, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I did go through a depression after like my first breakup, and that was really hard. And there was questions there, and even losing my stepdad recently in May, I had
Oh
questions
wow.
there because I was
Yeah.
like, it feels like he's not here. He's not, but I mean, I always come back to that feeling that like, yeah, he is there with me, and God is here with me, and he's going to get me through this.
Have you ever felt a spirit before? Have you ever felt the energy of someone who passed?
Oh no.
Just
No,
curious.
yeah, no, thank you for asking. No, personally no, I can't think that I have. Yeah, I mean, I have my stepfather's ashes like in the back room, and I don't feel like he's like I don't feel a breeze and I'm like it's Papa,
Yeah.
but I definitely feel like he's up there and he's watching over me.
That's cool. And by the way, I have to apologize. Earlier, I thought Loma Linda was in California, but it's Texas, and you had mentioned Texas and stuff, and I said California. So
Oh, no,
just
Loma Linda is in California. I was not
oh,
born in
okay.
Texas at all. There
Oh,
might
okay.
be a Loma Linda in Texas, but, like, I was definitely born in, like, Loma Linda, California, so no,
Okay,
you
so
were
that's what
not
I thought.
incorrect at all. Yeah.
And then your dad moved all the way to Texas, like he skipped over Arizona and went.
Yeah,
Okay, now I get it.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he moved back to where, like, the majority of, like, his family and his other kids and stuff like that are, and then my mom took me to Arizona because all of her family is, like, out here, like, my grandma Olive, who's passed when I was 14, she was out here.
Hmm.
My Aunt Star, my Aunt Mara, like, almost everyone in their, like, on my
The
mom's side
immediate,
is
yeah,
kinda
yeah.
here. Yeah.
And so, let's see, 32. So you're born in 1990.
1992, yeah.
92. Okay. Great year. Lots of Nirvana and music that this guy likes.
Yes.
Uh, 2.7 pounds, even in the year 2024, is like dangerously small and like Niku and then some.
Yep.
Uh, how much is the story of your birth like? Was it told you, and how much did that like affect you or not affect you? Like, are you a miracle
Oh,
baby? Like,
yeah,
are you considered like?
yes.
Hey everyone! If you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks!
I feel very blessed to be alive because I almost died a bunch of times when I was a baby. And so, yeah, my mom will tell every single person she meets that I'm her miracle baby. Doesn't matter if it's like we're in a store together, it immediately like comes out. And so, but yeah, so born premature, and I got some weird bug that doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. I had to have like 6 blood transfusions. It was a whole thing. I had to be incubated. Yeah, it was a wild journey, to say the least.
Wow. That's, I mean, seriously amazing. So, well,
Yeah.
that's glad it all worked out.
Yeah,
Have you
right?
ever had, like, is there any trailing issues from that, or did everything was fine once you were like,
I don't think so, other than
yeah,
the fact that
no,
I'm,
you would
like,
know. Yeah.
really small, but they were worried that I was, because I had to be on oxygen for so long, they were worried that I would be, like, deaf or mute or blind, or, things like that, like,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
had the concerns, but no, I came out alright.
No, you're fine. I can tell.
Yeah.
You're also like, I think I'm at least hyperbolizing the like. It is on camera and you can't tell. She's like a normal size, everyone. Like she's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, I think you and my wife are the same height. Like I would
Uh,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 4'10", so I
Okay.
never
Yeah.
made it to 5 feet, but yeah.
I love it. And so this was a question I was designed to ask like a little earlier, but we got the whole like weird recording thing, so I'm not sure how it's
No
gonna
worries.
segue in. But back to the like Jesus Christianity conversation. I view life as like this weird triangle of existence where you have like a brain, your mental side, then you have a body, and then you of course have the spiritual side. And some of
Yeah.
us do and do not develop or acknowledge the spiritual side, and many of us also just ignore the body or the mind. I mean, there's like a
Yeah.
whole thing going on. I am curious though, as a professional writer and as someone who like, okay, so I'm jumping into like topics, but you worked in a call center, but you didn't just work in a call center. I believe you ran one and you were like very successful in it.
I
I'm
didn't run it,
curious.
but I definitely worked in one.
Oh no, but weren't you not just like a basic call center employee? Weren't you like in management with it? Or did I
Not
misunderstand?
not management,
Okay.
no, I would get several promotions, but I was still always, like, on the phones.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. And that doesn't change any part of my question. So I'm glad you
Yeah, no
clarified.
worries.
But
Yeah.
uh, so what like do you ever feel torn between like your desire for the mental pursuit of like writing and all that and then your spiritual desires, which is to like be a good Christian? Like do you ever feel a pull between the two? Because I do. That's why I'm asking as like an artist creative type and then
Yeah.
with like my spiritual goals. So yeah.
I love that question, but, the answer in short and sweet terms is no. Just because I'm like, it's fiction. You know what I mean? Like, growing up, in a Christian home, and growing up Pentecostal, a huge part of the reason why I wasn't allowed to watch, like, demonic films was, like, the idea that, like, demons can come through. I've never personally held that belief. To me, it's like, it's movies, it's art, it's fiction, it's acting. I've never shared that kind of mindset. And that's not to be like a testament against anyone who might, or, I'm not bashing my mom or anything like that. I love my mom. But it's just not something I firmly stuck to, because to me a movie is a movie, a book is a book, a cartoon is a cartoon. I definitely can separate it. Like, I don't feel like I'm if I was writing a book about like demons, I don't feel like that's impactful to me, in my religious standpoint, because it's fiction. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not something that I believe is going to, do anything harmful to anyone. And so yeah, no, I don't personally feel guilty about anything I write. I'm very proud of everything that I write, and whether that's a short horror story or, a children's book, I just don't feel and I definitely don't put like overt themes in there, because I don't want to ever come off like as too like preachy to the
Hmm.
choir or whatever. I definitely try to avoid doing that, because I just want anyone that reads anything that I write to just, I don't care what background you come from, I want you to enjoy it. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a struggle or anything that I think too heavy on.
And what about with like what you're supposed to do with your life, like the meaning of life? Like, do you ever like you were working in a call center and you were paying the bills and then some, and you're doing great, but obviously it wasn't fulfilling. I don't think it's mean
No.
to say that call center work is not considered deeply fulfilling. Whereas I would say
No.
pursuing your favorite art is, and then everyone has a different thing that fulfills them. So I'm not saying if you work in a call center that precludes you from it, but you, Tina, don't seem
Yeah.
like someone who was meant to just work in a call center your whole life. So,
No, it's all good. I was definitely not passionate about taking phone calls.
so what was that like?
Not passionate.
So many
It
people are
was
afraid to do what you did. I mean, so many people are
yeah.
afraid to literally quit their day job. So,
Yeah, I know, and I definitely the biggest thing was honestly having a good support system in Chris. I mean, I will kind of tell it here. I know you are aware of this story, but
no, please
it was
retell it.
actually yeah, it was actually like it was him that actually prompted me. It wasn't actually a decision that even I myself was like, ah man, had a rough day, gonna quit my job, gonna put in my 2 weeks. It was not like that at all. Like I just was I was coming up on 30 at the time when we made this decision together, and I it just was like at that point where I was like, if I don't do what I want to do in life, or at least try and pursue it more seriously, I'm going to be stuck working in call centers until I'm like dying basically. And I was like, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to spend 40 years of my life doing this. And so I was upset and I was crying, and I did happen to have a rough call that day, and I had thick skin, but it was definitely something that like it was definitely like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting screamed out of my own house now. Like this is my safe space, and like I just don't want to deal with this stuff anymore. And Chris was like, he saw me upset. I was trying to cry all quiet and stuff, and I think I was doing okay, but he saw me over there because he was also working from home at the time, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And I was like, "This just isn't what I want to do forever." And I just had like this like mini midnight what is it called? Midlife crisis, I guess. And yeah, he was like, "Well, when you're off the phones and you're off work, he's like, we're going to sit down and we're going to work out our finances and make sure that everything is kosher." And we did. We ended up doing that together, and it fit out. So a huge part of that was my husband and having him believe in me so intensely. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, and it was a little nerve wracking at first because I was like, man, how am I going to tell people that I like quit? Because it's like, I feel like society has like this ideal that like if you're just like a wife at home who is like trying to pursue the arts, that you're just like this lazy person who just doesn't want to work, which is not at all how it is for me. I've never been lazy a day in my life. Um but and it's different, like stay at home moms have a little bit more respect in that field because it's like, well, at least you've got kids that you take care of, and you do housework, and I do housework, but there's definitely like a different mentality versus like you're both working versus like you are staying at home with the kids while the husband works versus, well, you're at home with a cat all day writing books. What the hell? you know
Yeah.
yeah. So but yeah, huge support system right off the bat. I definitely married the right person. He's incredible. And yeah, so yeah, but it was definitely a little bit of a scary jump because I was like, oh my god, I'm quitting my job to not make money and try to make money doing what like a million other people are trying to do.
Well, and it's funny because I mean, we share this. This is one of the bonds that
Yeah.
most of the people in our writing group has. Not all of
Yeah.
them, but like many of us are following a dream patiently,
Yeah.
patiently. Like it's like the I
Yes.
mean, you know
Yep.
how it goes. We know
It
how it
takes a
goes, and
long time. Yeah.
so I am curious because I know my answer to this, and it's changed over the years. But do you have like a fake deadline or a real deadline, or are you just like in it?
I'm just in it.
Cool,
I don't want to stop until I reach my goal. So, and which is the
awesome,
type of
awesome.
person I am. I'm like I'm just gonna, I mean, I guess if like if shit really hit the fan, and I needed to, like something happens with Chris's job or whatever, and like I've got to get back to it. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna do what I got to do, pick myself up by the bootstraps and make the money. But as of right now, and God willing, with everything being okay, I plan on pursuing this for the rest of my life.
Cool, perfect. And I
Yeah,
love
I'm
that
gonna
answer.
reach the top of the
And
mountain.
awesome. If I didn't know you, I would end the podcast here, but I know you, so I have to ask you some like down nitty gritty questions about call
That's
centers, just because
fine.
I wrote
Oh,
a
yeah,
novel on it and I didn't know you at the time, and I would have killed to, like ask you questions and have you like beta read like the parts about the call center. So let's just start
yeah.
off with my acknowledging the reason I picked a call center is I had a friend who worked in one, and to me, speaking of hell and heaven, hell on earth would be working in a call center. And it's
Pretty
not.
close.
I don't mind talking to people for a living. That's not my problem. It's just like
Yeah.
have to take your abuse and smile because I did fast food. I've done retail. I've
Yeah.
done coffee. I know
Yeah.
what it's like but call
Yeah.
center extra impersonal because these people already hate you. It's not even like they come in and take an
Yeah.
order and then can turn. So tell me the worst part of call center work, the best part of call center work, and then I'd love one or two stories if you have these awesome stories.
Yeah. No, definitely. So the worst side is people don't see you. So you're 100% correct. When people can't, because I also did retail and things like that. Like my very first job was Walmart. And people can still be like totally crazy shit happens in Walmart all the time. People can totally be like awful to your face. But working in a call center where they don't see you, they just it's like being anonymous online. They feel like they can just tell you absolutely every single thing, and I've had people drone on about like their lives, and I'm like, oh my god, sir, I'm just trying to finish your transaction. Like, I don't need your life story.
That's
But
all.
yeah, I mean,
Respect for
and
that.
yeah. But let's see, so that's kind of the worst, is like people will treat you really bad. And then also, I mean, all my bosses have been really amazing. This is not a hit to them. I'm still friends with a lot of my old bosses, but like there's definitely the aspect of being like micromanaged. You have to meet certain numbers, you have to take a certain number of phone calls. You can't there's usually a button, like an after call button is what they call it, where like you hit that button and that pauses it so you don't get an incoming call. They're usually really strict limits on that kind of stuff. So it's
Wow.
very much like a fast pace. And then I guess the other thing would be like not being able to really chit chat with people around you. So it does have a tendency to feel a little isolating. Um, because yeah, like you can't really talk when you have to take phone calls. But on the flip side, the best aspect is usually there's meetings, which are great because that gets you off the phones. They pay you really well. They feed you. Every call center I've ever worked at always goes ham with the food. Um,
Wow.
and then like outside of like doing the actual like consistently droning on in phone calls, you do pick up like really close knit friendships because you see each other more than you see your own families typically. Um, so yeah, that's definitely the best aspects for those things. And then a few stories. Oh my gosh.
Not even a few,
Okay.
just what is your ultimate party story if you have one? I'm sure you have a many, so just
Okay. So, well, one of the weirdest calls I got was a guy that was on the phone, him and his wife, and they were arguing. And his wife like blurted out, she's like, "What are you going to do? Hit me again?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is just crazy."
wow.
And then another like really wild thing that happened was this lady lived in New York and she bought a flamingo in Florida. This is a true story. This is absolutely insane. She wanted a flamingo, and so she bought this flamingo in Florida for like thousands of dollars. And she was calling in, 'cause this is when I was working at a bank. I'm not going to say what company because I don't know if I could do that. But definitely she wanted to dispute the transaction and get her money back because she took this very tropical bird out of its very tropical climate and then drove it all the way to New York. It was like this huge trip with the thing in the back seat, and it was winter in New York, and so the bird was like not having it, was not doing well. And then she decided that it was cold, so she put it in her shower and like put like hot water on it, and the thing died. And she wanted I'm sorry, it's terrible, but it's actually kind of
No, no,
funny.
no. This is incredible.
And yeah, so she was angry that she'd spent like 10 grand on a flamingo and it died. And so she wanted all of her money back. And I'm like, this is insane.
Uh,
So that's kind of like one of the more wild stories, but yeah.
no, that was perfect. Also, my mother, who was born on your birthday, her favorite animal is the flamingo, and she's from Florida. So I
I also
am
love
gonna make her
flamingos.
watch. Yeah, that's great. I love it. That's the
Excellent.
best story ever.
I feel
That's
so bad for that flamingo. Poor bird.
seriously. I am
Yeah.
like such an animal lover, but I'm still like okay with like
Me
life and
too.
death and whatever. But that is like
Yeah.
so egregious, so wrong, so unnecessary, and so dumb.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
wow. And I apologize to anyone watching. When I'm nervous, I laugh. So when you mentioned that like this total
It's okay,
jerk
me
hit
too.
his wife, I was like laughing, and like I just
Yeah.
need to
No,
say
I
that now that
know.
we're doing video
Yeah,
podcast. This is
you're
me
good.
nervous. Yeah.
I was also
Well,
like sitting here like, what the heck?
yeah.
I just hear. Yeah, you'll
No, it's
get people
crazy.
that are just wild.
Actually, I heard a woman yelling at her kid at the supermarket the other day, and I was like, for the first time ever in my adult life, tempted to like ask about CPS and like report, and it was like awkward because I don't even know what the social boundaries are for that, and
Yeah.
so I imagine it's like a similar case where you're just like, well, that's domestic violence, like that's literally against the law, and
Yeah.
you just verbally said it, but also I would have to like get you to press charges and blah blah blah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was. So I
Yeah.
feel you on that. All right. Well, we've done a hell of a podcast, and I did go a little longer as I promised you because you're awesome and you're interesting.
Thank you.
I do like to give my guests the last word on the show. So, is there anything you'd like to share with my audience? It can be whatever you want.
Um, yeah. Definitely, if you are interested, follow me on Substack and read my
Please
wonderful
do.
stories. And yeah, be on the lookout because I plan on getting stuff published, and as soon as I can, I will have that information out. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tina Thilmony. Don't mispronounce her name. And I don't know if you're going to publish under Tina Jenkins, so just in case, I'm going to throw both your names out on the
That's
podcast.
perfect.
But thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you
Of
for bringing
course.
so much light to our group. And thank you for
Yay.
quitting call centers, but also thank you for working in call centers. So I get
Yes.
to ask you about call centers, which was awesome.
Yes. Amazing.
To everyone watching or listening at home, this is the second ever video podcast of Coffin Talk. It's also still available on audio. And as always, if you want to support the show, the best and only way to support it is to head over to MikeyOp.com. That's MIKEYOPP.com. And you can sign up for the free weekly email that I write, which includes either fiction or nonfiction by me, and of course the podcast announcement. Once again, we've been talking with Tina Jenkins or Tina Thilmony. My name is Mike Oppenheim. You have been listening to Coffin Talk, and we will see you soon. Walking along when I hear